Hello students and welcome to the another lecture of general biochemistry. So in last lecture we learned about amino acids, what are the various examples of amino acids, their functions, and that they are the basic units for the formation of polypeptides and various proteins. So in today's lecture we are going to study about polypeptides and introduction to proteins. And also we are going to learn how are amino acids linked together by polypeptide bonds to form polypeptides and proteins. Also we are going to have a brief introduction to proteins and their functions. So let's start with that now. So objectives of today's lecture are to get a basic knowledge about what are polypeptides and what are proteins, how can we classify them, what are their basic functions, and how are amino acids joined to form these structures, polypeptides and proteins. So in today's lecture we are going to include what are polypeptides, what are the roles and functions of polypeptides, a basic brief introduction to proteins, functions of proteins, biological importance of proteins, and disorders due to protein deficiency. So let's have a look. Let's start with what are polypeptides. So again, before we move forward with polypeptides or peptide linkage or proteins, we must have certain things in mind. And these things are that proteins are biomolecules. And as we have discussed earlier also, biomolecules are chemical compounds that are found in living organisms, and these mainly include chemicals that are composed of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur and phosphorus. So basically these are the building blocks for other bigger components in living organisms. And we know that the four major classes of biomolecules are carbohydrates, proteins, nucleotides, and lipids. And we are talking about proteins in this lecture. So amino acids are the monomeric units for protein formation. And these amino acids are linked together with the help of peptide bonds to make polypeptides and proteins. So before moving on with the polypeptides or proteins, we should know that how are the monomeric units, that is amino acids, joined together. So we'll try to learn that with the help of this small video called peptide bond formation, and we will see how the monomeric units are joined together and how are peptide bonds formed. So here what you can see on screen, you can see two amino acids. This is the first amino acid. As you can see, it has one amino group, here one carboxyl group, one side chain and one hydrogen atom which is attached to the central atom. Here is the second amino acid which is having the same structure, having one amino group, one carboxylic acid group, one side chain and one hydrogen atom. So we'll now see how are these two amino acids joined together and then further joined together to form longer chains of polypeptides and proteins. So what do you mean by peptide bond? So we know that when a carboxylic group of first amino acid reacts with the amino group on the second amino acids, the bond hence formed is known as the peptide bond. So let's see what exactly happens. So as you can see here, this OH on the first carboxylic group of first amino acid reacts with this hydrogen on second amino acids, and one molecule of water is removed in this reaction. Here you can see, and this is known as dehydration reaction. So what happens is this resulting structure, that is this C double bond O and this NH, they form a bond here. So the bond formed between this C of the first amino acid and N in the second amino acid, this CONH bond hence formed is known as the peptide bond. So we can simply say that the bond formed between carboxylic group of first amino acids and amino group of second amino acids when they undergo dehydration reaction, condensation reaction, the CONH bond hence formed is known as the peptide bond. So now we know that a peptide bond is a chemical bond formed between two amino acids when the carboxyl group of one molecule reacts with amino group on the second molecule, that is amino acid, releasing one molecule of water, which is known as dehydration reaction. So this is a dehydration synthesis reaction, also known as condensation reaction, which usually takes place between two amino acids. So the resulting CONH bond is called a peptide bond, and the molecule which is resultant is known as amide. We'll have a closer look of this with the help of this diagram. So here what we can see, here's this first amino acid and it is the second amino acid. So this carboxylic acid group on the first amino acid reacts with this amino group on the second amino acid. One water molecule is lost, which is known as dehydration reaction. And this C double bond O bond NH, this CONH bond is known as a peptide bond, and that is how amino acids are joined together to form longer structures called polypeptides and proteins. We'll now see what do you mean by peptides and polypeptides. So we all know that amino acids are the monomeric units of these bigger structures called peptides or proteins. So what happens is when these amino acids they join together or polymerize with the help of a peptide linkage between them, this is known, the resultant polymers hence formed are known as peptides. So basically peptides are smaller condensation products of amino acids. Larger condensation products are called polypeptides or proteins. So what will their structure and function depended upon? So obviously when the monomeric unit is amino acid, so the structure and function of peptides will depend upon the nature of amino acids present in them, what are the sequence of these amino acids, and what special relationship these amino acids share. So when we take protein in our diet, these proteins are digested and broken down in the body to form new proteins or peptides. So on breakdown of these proteins, many peptides are formed in the body and they perform several actions they are required for. We'll call them peptides when up to 10 amino acid units are linked together. After that, we'll call them polypeptides or proteins. So, peptides are relatively smaller polymers as we know. If 2 to 10 amino acid units are joined together, they'll be called as peptides or oligopeptides also. Dipeptides are when two amino acids join together with the help of peptide linkage. Similarly, when three amino acids are linked together with the help of peptide linkage, they are known as tripeptides. And up to 10 units, 10 units are known as decapeptides. And when will be they called as polypeptides? When up to 50 amino acid units are linked together, they will be known as polypeptides. Now we'll see some of the biologically important peptides and what are the various functions and roles these very polypeptides play in the body. So biologically important peptides, some of the examples are glutathione, tryptophan releasing hormone or TRH, oxytocin, vasopressin, angiotensins, bradykinin, etc. And let's see what and all functions do they play. So they can act as hormones and pheromones in the body, like insulin, which you all must be knowing is used in the body for sugar uptake, is a polypeptide. Then there is oxytocin, which regulates childbirth. And then there is sex peptide. It is not found in humans, but it regulates mating in fruit flies. Polypeptides can also act as neuropeptides. For example, the substance P is a pain mediator, which is a polypeptide. They can also be used as antibiotics to fight infections. So, polymyxin B, which is used to fight gram-negative bacteria, and bacitracin, which is used to fight gram-positive bacteria, are two good examples of polypeptides as antibiotics. Also, they can be used for protection in some organisms or fruits, such as mushrooms, snails, and scorpions. This is known as toxins. So what happens is some of these organisms or fruits, they produce some toxins to be protected from their predators, and these are also polypeptides in nature. Okay, so some examples are amanitin, that is secreted by mushrooms, conotoxins secreted by cone snails, and chlorotoxins just secreted in scorpions. Now we will move on to proteins. So we all know that proteins are polymeric units of amino acids, and these are the most abundant organic molecule of life. Okay, so these are protein polymers of amino acids or heteropolymers, as I said, and they generally consist more than 50 to several hundreds of amino acid units joined together with the help of peptide linkage. So now we'll see what is the elemental composition of proteins. So protein is made up of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, and in trace amounts it contains phosphorus, iron, copper, iodine, magnesium, manganese, and zinc. So the amount of carbon in proteins is 50 to 55%, hydrogen is 6 to 7.3%, oxygen is 19 to 24%, nitrogen is 13 to 19%, and it contains 0 to 4% of sulfur, and rest of the elements are in trace amounts, that means they are very less. So now we'll have a look on what and all functions do proteins play in our body. So the functions of proteins in our body are broadly divided into two types. One is dynamic functions and second is static functions. So to initiate with, we'll have a look on what are the dynamic functions played by proteins. So the first and important dynamic function is proteins function as enzyme in catalysis of reaction. So we all know that enzymes are used to change the rate of reaction, to usually increase the rate of reaction. So these enzymes are nothing but proteins other than ribozymes, which are RNA enzymes, which are not proteins. So a very important function of proteins is to serve as biological catalyst, that is enzymes. Except from ribozymes, all enzymes are proteins. Biochemical reactions can occur at a significant rate only in the presence of these enzymes. So for example, enolase, which is involved in glycolysis process, uh, that is in the metabolism of carbohydrates, this enolase enzyme is used. And enzyme called DNA polymerase are used in DNA replication. The second dynamic function of these proteins is to act as regulatory proteins, that is receptors and signal transducers. So we must keep in mind that chemically all receptors are protein. Examples are insulin and hormone receptors, LDL receptors, T cell receptors, etc. The third dynamic functions that proteins play in our body is to act as carrier proteins, that is to perform transport function. For example, you all know what is hemoglobin. It is a substance which gives red color to the blood. This is also a protein, and what it does is it transports O2 in the blood. It binds with oxygen and it carries it in oxygenated blood. Membrane channels and associated proteins. Chemically, these are also made up of proteins. For example, chloride channel, calcium channel, sodium potassium channel, etc. All these are proteins. Other examples are albumin, retinol binding protein, thyroxine binding globulin, transferrin and lipoproteins, etc. Now, proteins also play static functions in the body, and these are also very important. So, what and all static functions do protein play? They are important for giving structure. For example, collagen is found in connective tissues, and keratin is also a protein which is found in hair, nail, feathers of some birds, and horns of animals. Another very important static function played by proteins is motion. So muscle contraction occurs because of movement of these two proteins. These are myosin and actin. Myosin is found in muscle tissue and actin is seen in muscle tissue for cell motility. Another important function played by proteins is storage. So these are usually seen for the storage of iron, vitamins, minerals, etc. For example, ferritin and hemosiderin. These are used for storage of iron in the body. And transcobalamin 1, it stores vitamin B12 in the body. Another very important function is to maintain the defense mechanism, which means to form antibodies in the body. So this is responsible, proteins are responsible to protect us from infection and other toxic substances. So all the antibodies, IgA, IgG, etc., these are proteins only. We'll now see what is the biological importance of proteins. Why it is so important for us to know about proteins and what and all importance does protein has. So protein is one of the important components of diet. It is required to maintain growth and healthy functioning of the body. So whatever happens in the body, protein is required for that. Because as I already told you, we consume protein in our diet and then it is broken down and restructured into other proteins depending upon what it is required for in the body. For example, we ate suppose egg or we drank milk. So the proteins that we take through all those will be broken down and will be used for whatever function they are required, such as suppose an infection is going on, so they'll be used for making antibodies. Suppose some growth repair work is going on in the body, it will be used for that. So accordingly, these proteins will be restructured and used in the body. Protein gives amino acid on hydrolysis during digestion, and these amino acids are absorbed in the blood. Amino acids are building blocks required for a cell to synthesize proteins like structure protein, enzymes, etc. Proteins are the structural components of protoplasm, cell, and tissues. So we can classify proteins on the basis of their nutritional value into two types. These are complete proteins and incomplete proteins. So what are complete proteins? So proteins that contain all the essential amino acids in required quantities are called complete proteins. For example, from milk and egg we get complete proteins. We get all the essential amino acids. And now we'll come to incomplete proteins. So proteins that do not contain all essential amino acids in required quantities are known as incomplete proteins. So their examples are maize and gelatin. It is important to keep in mind that under certain conditions, dietary proteins or body proteins are diverted from production of energy. Uh, as we all know that production of energy is the key role of carbohydrates and lipids, but under certain circumstances, proteins are also used for production of energy. And when this is done, it is done when inadequate supply of carbohydrates or fats is there in the body and protein intake is very high. A low intake of protein results in deficiency syndromes. Such conditions are developed maybe due to low dietary intake or malfunctioning of body, such as malabsorption and non-conversion. So here are some examples of protein sources, and here are their bioavailability index. So in whole egg, the bioavailability index of protein is 100. In cow's milk, it's 91. In egg white, it's 88. In fish, it's 83. In beef, it's 80, and so on. In rice, it's 74, and in wheat, it's only 54. Now we'll see what if we don't take adequate proteins. What are the disorders that are going to happen due to protein deficiency? So mainly there are three disorders. One is Kwashiorkor's disease, and another one is marasmus, and third one is nutrition edema, which we are going to see in detail now. That will happen due to deficiency of protein in the body. So first of all, let's see what is Kwashiorkor disease. So it is caused uh, due to lack of protein in diet in children mainly. It is common in countries that are facing famine, political unrest, natural disasters such as earthquake, landslides, floods, etc. because proper food will not be provided there. In slum areas also this is very common, and areas with high poverty this is very common. So what will be the symptoms? The key symptoms are change in skin and hair color, because melanin is responsible for skin and hair color, which is also a protein. Fatigue, diarrhea, physical and mental growth retardation, and edema will be seen. So as you can see here, edema can be seen. Edema is accumulation of fluid, simply swelling. So the treatment is consumption of protein-rich foods such as eggs, dietary products, nuts, fruits, fish, meat, etc. But in all is rich in protein. Now let's see what is marasmus. It is another disease caused due to protein deficiency. It is key causes are malnutrition, lack of energy and proteins, poverty, contaminated water, metabolic and anatomic changes. So what we will see in the patient with marasmus, we'll see a lean body, as you can see here, projected ribs and sunken eyes that can be easily seen in this child. So how this can be treated? Simple. We have to tell the patient to consume proper protein-rich diets such as eggs, fish, meats, dietary products, fruits and nuts, etc. to treat this marasmus. So what did we learn in today's lecture? We came to know that peptides are small polymers of amino acids and proteins are larger polymers of amino acids, and these are the most abundant organic molecules of life. They perform static as well as dynamic functions in the living cells. The dynamic functions of proteins are to function as enzymes, hormones and pheromones, clotting factors, immunoglobulins, storage proteins, and membrane receptors. And the static function was to give structure for motion, etc. So these are the textbooks that you can refer for further reading. And thank you very much for your patience listening.